Hello there, you may not know me yet, but I am your favorite artist and I'm about to talk about death today. Yes, death, and how it can make us feel more alive. I'll be real, I've been struggling with anxiety lately and getting way too in my head, spiraling and overthinking everything. Insecurities have been popping up, doubts have been popping up, and ultimately, I was sitting in meditation today and I remembered something. We are all going to die. Literally, everyone on this planet right now is gonna be dead. Well, the majority of people within 100 years. Everything that we know will have ended. Nothing is permanent. Things may recycle, sure, in different forms, but nothing ultimately stays the same. When you embrace the impermanence of your being, everything that you're worrying about seems so small and minuscule, and you can focus on the things that you genuinely want to do in this moment that makes you happy. Today is recalibration day because I've been really stressed, just driving myself crazy for no good reason. So meditation and going for a run now, just trying to recenter and get back on track. The reason why I'm wearing a mask is because it's really polluted today. There's been like a sandstorm here in Beijing, so I technically shouldn't be running, but you gotta do the stuff you gotta do for mental health. There's something empowering about sitting in the knowing that we're gonna die and using that as the fuel for everything that you do. If you use death as the motivation for your decisions while you're alive, I promise you that those decisions and the direction of your life is gonna be way more interesting, fun, compelling than if you use the expectations of society and the anxiety that you feel in achieving things that you see on social media that are not even coming from within yourself. Studio time! Emotions are a normal part of life, and some of us experience greater intensities than others. Anxiety is normal, guys. It happens to the best of us. Okay, but enough about my thoughts on death. Let's look at several philosophers and their thoughts on death while you watch me paint this glorious bastard. Quick spoiler alert, I didn't take many footages of the beginning process of this painting. We kind of go straight to the end, but make sure to watch until the end of the video because then you get the full view of this madness. Let's start with a quote from Schopenhauer. Mostly it is loss that teaches us about the worth of things. Even though this quote doesn't explicitly mention death, it is essentially the same concept. By reminding ourselves of the potential loss we could be experiencing, we actually may appreciate the fact that we are not in the loss in this very moment. And in this context, well, in the context of today's theme, that could be the remembrance of the fact that we will die. And yo, we're alive right now, so let's celebrate. Here's a quote by one of my favorite humans that ever roamed Earth, Carl Jung. Embrace your grief, for there your soul will grow. Isn't that just so beautiful? In a way, these two quotes are saying the same thing. By accepting loss, we accept gain, or we appreciate our gains. By accepting death, we accept life, and we learn to truly live. By letting go of the resistance toward death, we let go of our resistance toward life, and we are able to get closer to living out our full potential. Which brings us to another beautiful quote by Carl Jung. We need the coldness of death to see clearly. Life wants to live and to die, to begin and to end. I know we're getting a little heavy today, but this is really a worthwhile topic. I want you to live your best life. And sometimes we get lost in our own anxieties, stresses, fears, all the negative emotions that it's very natural for us to experience as humans. And in those moments when we get super stuck in our own mind, ruminating back and forth and it's not going anywhere, sometimes the easiest and best solution is to think of the worst case scenario. Then we are able to appreciate the fact that we're breathing, that we're healthy, hopefully. And as Carl's quote insinuates, we are able to see more clearly when we contrast it against the coolness of death. Here's another quote by Plato, and this one is powerful. The whole life of a philosopher is the preparation for death. Isn't that just so good? So I know most of you listening to this are not philosophers, but I think this applies to all of us in a way, or at least in the ideal context. And I don't want you to live blindly and follow the rule book of someone else only to realize on your deathbed that you have a ton of regrets, and that's why we're having this discussion today. Although I think potentially creative folks and artists, musicians, writers, other forms of mediums, I consider us in some ways philosophers. At least that's where I feel like my work comes from. Inevitably, when you sit with yourself for prolonged periods of time, you start to ponder these questions. It's just an inevitable consequence of solitude, in my opinion. But ultimately, I think it's all of our journeys to ponder these questions eventually. And I'd rather you think about these things and come to acceptance of the worst case scenario so that you can have a better life and be able to appreciate the beauty that is in your life currently. I find that the repetitive cycles that I go through when I'm painting to be a teacher for some of these concepts that I discussed today. And perhaps if you focus intently on something that you love doing, you will also realize that it is a mirror for your life and can open up your mind to larger philosophical ideas. So giving birth to a painting can be frustrating in the sense that you gotta battle your own demons. Perhaps you have procrastination issues and you gotta get through that and just sit your butt down and start. So that's painful. But then you gotta be a good parent after you give birth to the painting. You gotta actually continue, be disciplined, and complete the painting and bring it into existence. Make it become its own entity, its own adult, so that it has its own life. And then you gotta deal with the scrutiny and whatever opinions other people have of your baby. And I'm just saying, it's like an intense process. Speaking of which, do we enjoy this adult that I just birthed? I would love to hear your thoughts on this painting, on this subject, in your comments below. And please check out my art on Instagram. If you enjoyed this painting, there are tons more on my Instagram. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and you can see my portfolio on my website. Got more paintings and collections there. You can also support my journey on Patreon, yada yada yada, and obviously subscribe if you want to be notified when I make more videos. Anyway, thanks for watching.